I'm Sarah from The Upcoming. Such a pleasure to be able to speak to you today. Maybe you could just begin with a brief introduction to this absolutely wonderful documentary, A New Kind of Wilderness. What can people expect when they watch it?
It's a film about a family who trying to live a bit of the land, be sustainable, being actually just they want to spend more time with their children and be present in nature. And then the mother in the family dies, the matriarch dies, and they need to cope with all the changes, going through grief, and at the same time dealing with modern life again. So yeah, a short summary of it.
An incredible film and journey we watch, in the final documentary. But of course, there was a whole journey that you went on with this family before even the making of it began. So maybe you can just sort of take us back to how you first came across this family, their lifestyle. I believe it was like through the blog Maria used to write. So maybe you can tell us about how this version of the documentary came to be.
Yeah, I will try to make it short, but it was more or less 10 years ago, maybe 11 now. I was in the process of wanting to become a mother myself. And I just discovered Maria's blog, was wild and free. She had like everyday photos of her life and the family, the children in the nature, and how they dealt with like all the growing up, everything around it. And she had these beautiful photos and text to it. It was so inspiring. In Norway, everybody choose the same. We choose the same public school. We go put their children to daycare from when they're like 10 months, and everybody just does the same. And she was like, what if you can reinvent your life and do it on your own terms? And it's hard, and you need to do a lot of work, and it's not easy, but this is at least our conscious choice on how we want to live. So I wanted to make a TV series out of them, just following them in everything that happened with the family. And I pitched it to the NRK, which is the national broadcaster, and they said no. And I kept in touch with Maria, and it was so much things happening in the family. I was like, I need to tell their story in a way. And then she died. She was sick on a blog, and just a couple months afterwards she died. It was almost like losing a dear friend, even though I just met her once. And I was like, okay, I want to tell their story, but it's going to be a different story now. It's going to be a story about grief also, and losing the most important person in life, and how the changes from that. But also it's about the way they led their life. So so that's how it started.
And I guess at that moment, there was a bit of a crossroads, whether you would sort of continue with the project or not, and for the family themselves, because, I mean, what a devastating thing to have to go through. They might have easily said, you know what, we'd rather not continue. How did you kind of have that discussion, bring them on board? And I guess for them, in a way, perhaps it wasn't an amazing opportunity to keep that connection to Maria
Yeah.
through continuing the project with you.
I just filmed them once, actually, 10 years ago. So we never had this project going on while Maria was alive. When I called Nick, it wasn't to continue the project, it was to start on the project after her death. And of course, to call a morning man after his passing of his wife and say, hey, can I come and film you in the most vulnerable period of your family's life? But I think because he met me with Maria, he knew that Maria wanted to do this, and it was in a way to keep her legacy. And that's why I met them, and I said, I want to film you where you are now, but I also want to include Maria's photos and stories, to like from like a voice from the past. So that's why he said yes, and he also said this in the interview, so I know. But of course it was times when he was like, what have I done? I filming my children in this period. Is this the right thing to do? But then we have good talks, and I just needed to hear him out and his concerns and everything. And of course, if for that, everybody will have doubts about that. So yeah, so we had conversations along the way about it.
The thing I felt when I was watching it, though, is there's no acknowledgement of the camera, really, which I think is an incredible achievement. You've captured so many sort of wonderfully candid, vulnerable moments, him with the kids and, the way they're speaking to each other. How do you achieve that? I mean, is it also kind of one of these things that's just about the amount of time you're able to spend with them as well? I mean, you must have sort of reams and reams of footage. How do you achieve that? What's your approach?
I think with this kind of film, it was different things. It was because I filmed at the end of COVID. I filmed a bit, so it was only me, and I continued to do so. So all the most sensitive moments, I'm there alone with the camera. And I think that's the key to get really intimate footage, because then they know me and they were used to me being there. And the other thing is that we're so used to Maria having the camera around. For like a director and or a photographer, just being them with them, they were just natural. They didn't never never try to act on anything or try to give me anything. And I didn't very seldom direct them in any way, because they just, it was just a privilege to go around and trying to be observational. And I think that was the key role, because often it takes so much time to get like people to get used to the camera and be natural in front of the camera and forget the camera. But because they were so used to having Maria there, it was like, okay, it's not the mother, but it's like a friend eventually going around filming them.
And maybe you can give us a bit of a flavor, how many sort of hours of footage did you have? And along the way, were there some sort of really standout, challenging moments? And on the flip side, ones that you really treasure?
Yeah, it was, how many? I don't know, maybe 150 hours or something can be in total. I think I have 40 days of footage, maybe a bit more hours, but something like that. Yeah, and it was challenging. What is challenging? It's, of course, it's sometimes to know where to put the camera, what we focus on. Sometimes it's really, really what you're going to film. Other times you need to just look for it. And I think it's a part of the research to just be there with the camera and trying to find. But I think, for example, first day at school, it's hard for them to be there first day at school. And at the same time, you'll say, hey, can I follow you with the camera, please? It's important for the film. It's kind of like you push a bit the camera on children that doing things that's hard for them. But then we had like good talks. We're like, okay, I know you don't want me around with the camera, but can I film something? And they're like, okay, you can film me going into the classroom, and I'm like, can I have one scene from outside from the windows? So I always like made agreements with them, so they would know that I would just don't show up like filming. And then I respected them. Like after I've got what we agreed on, I would move back. So that could be hard to try to get those moments. That was tough for them, especially when they met like at school or other people. I thought it would be harder to be with them because they would be so sad of losing their mother, but I just found so much joy in them being with each other, especially the children. They were so they were so present. So that was just a joy being with them. And I think maybe that will be the upside as well, just like seeing them crawling up in the forest, seeing them looking at like Maria fly, like digging in the dirt, just being in. That was like some of the moments that I really appreciated, and it was just so wonderful to be a part of.
And I think that's also what gives the film its sort of really unique sort of feel and tone, is because you've also capturing all this wonderful nature, whether it's sort of the beauty of the landscapes, the sunlight, the sounds of bees. Was that also a really important thing to have in the film, from a cinematographical point of view?
Yeah, for sure. And I felt that I didn't get all the way that I could, because the film it had so many. It was about the relationships. It was about changes, modern life. It was so many of those scenes went away in the final editing, because it hadn't room for it. But yeah, it was really important, and I wish I could have more like the way they did. I wanted to have the sound, how they were digging in the dirt and being out in the forest. And the first photo with Maria in the forest, when she closed her eyes, that's when she would just want to listen to the extreme sounds of the birds. So of course, because this meant so much to them, and it meant so much for Maria, and it was a part of their DNA. So I needed to try to involve it as much as I could.
And when you finally showed them the finished film, I don't know what that moment was like, because I think her father was teasing you slightly, I guess, as a way of him kind of coping, in a very sort of British way of the sort of the awkwardness of it. Oh, no one's ever even going to watch it except some obscure festival. Was there this amazing moment? Oh, okay, this is why we did this, because what an incredible thing to have at the end of it all.
Yeah, I was so nervous the first time, because of course Nick had many doubts about the filming period, and at the end he was kind of tired of it, and I guess his kids as well. So I remember I went to the farm, gave him the laptop, and I was like, "You're gonna watch it alone in the room and you're going to come out when you're finished. And he was like, okay. So then he went out to see it. I just walked around like in circles, like Donald Duck, you see, going around, nervous outside. And then he came out and he was like really looking down. And I'm like, oh no. And then he looked at me and he waited for like, I think he waited for like 15 seconds. And he's like, that's the most beautiful film I've ever seen. And I was like sobbing and crying. And I was so happy because that was the most important thing for me, that they felt that the film was true to them, and they felt that the film was true. And I heard you say in interviews afterwards that he said that he looked at me because he was crying so much the first time he saw the film that he didn't really saw the film. But he looked at me and I was so nervous, and so he needed to say something nice to me. And I think as well for them, they had no idea. So when we got the film into Sundance, and I remember I came on stage and I said to the audience the first time the premiere, I said, please welcome the family pain. And you can hear the audience like, ooh, going through the room. And I remember like my hair was like, and I think they felt it too, the powerful moment of them being there and realizing this film means something to people. And that was just amazing. And the feedback, and I got people from all around the world writing me letters to say, can you please give them to the family pain, because the film means so much to me. And I think they me neither, can never foresee that to come.
And yeah, that was going to be sort of my next question in terms of what, because I guess everyone will take something different from the film, perhaps depending on their own personal experiences, whether you've, experienced grief, whether you've got a family, you've got kids. But, what do you think have been some of the key themes? Because although it is such a personal, intimate story, there are all these sort of big questions that come out of it, the choices that we make about the lifestyle we live. Should we be sort of, going along with modern day society? Should we be choosing our own path? What's best for our children? Mm-hmm. How do you deal with grief? I love that moment. I mean, love's probably the wrong word, but like it really touched me the moment the older daughter says, oh, I feel like everyone says, it's been long enough now, you should have moved on. And I don't feel that way, in the way that grief can affect us in so many different ways. And it's not a sort of linear trajectory that you just sort of move on. So there's so many things to unpack there. What have been some of the key takeaways or themes for you?
When I started it, I think it was, in Norway, we all do, we're quite homogenic. We do the same. We put our children to daycare when they're 8 months. We put them then also to public school. We really and both of us work 100% from we just do the same thing because that's what everybody else do. And Maria and Nick was like, we just do it in our own way. And that's from me. And I think Nick and them, they don't go preach around telling everybody how they should live their life, but they make a conscious choice on it. And I think that's, for me, that has been how do I want to be with my children? How do I want to be present with them when they grow up? Do I want to live on a farm? Or can I live in the city? Just be, aware of it. And we can, in a way, be it, of course. But if we want to live in Oslo, we need to work 100%. If we move outside, then we can live cheaper. But is this a conscious choice? I think this. But what has amazed me, people come out being a single parent, don't know how to raise their children, being half sister, being half. People take it in so many different ways, as you said, and I think that's just been amazing. And even it's not just in Norway or UK, or it's in Japan, it's in Taiwan, it's in different parts of the world, in the US. So I think that's been amazing that you can relate to those stories no matter where you come from.
And I think the other thing that sort of is the sort of strongest sense and feeling you get from the movie is this feeling of love, the love between them, the love they had for their mother. And they're not afraid to talk about that and express that. And maybe that is one of the things you think about, whatever other decisions you make, bringing up your children in an atmosphere where they feel loved and they feel able to express their love for others feels like a sort of whatever else you do, that seems like a really great thing to aim for. Is that something you felt from the family right from the beginning too?
Yeah, for sure. And also reading through all texts that Maria wrote, and for her it was more choose love. And it wasn't just easy for her and Nick as well. They had their struggles and everything, but it was she was always go back to this, go to the basic of elements, what we have around us and the people. And I think Nick as well, he said it really well in interviews. He said that you can't change the world. The world is crazy that we're living right now, but you can take some responsibility on the people around you and the place you are now. And I think it's not like to moralize for other people. It's just to be aware of it yourself. And I think that's a great value. And try to simply choose love if you can, in a cliche way maybe, but it's true.
Have you got another project percolating yet, or are you letting the dust settle on this one? What's next for you?
Now I'm turning camera like on my family. I decided never to film my own family, but as every other documentary film director, we end up to film it. But no, it's actually a documentary for children, for family. It's about a Christmas mystery that happened in my family for 22 years. We had received this, my husband's family received this Christmas package, what they don't know who it's from, and they try to figure it out through like the news, through the ads and everything. And my children and me and my husband were detective this Christmas that was, trying to find who it was. And the Christmas packages began to arrive after he lost his brother to suicide like 22 years ago. So the present comes over and over and over again every Christmas. So we were detectives for 2 weeks during this Christmas and made a film.
Wow. So
now we're in the editing room. It's really different, it's made over 2 weeks and everything, but we hope that it can be fun, it can be mysterious, a real Christmas mystery with something deeper in it.
Amazing. Well, I can't wait to see that as well. And of course, people who haven't seen A New Kind of Wilderness yet, I'm sure they're going to love it as much as me. I found it so moving and inspiring. So thank you so much.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to talk to you.